Before you come at me with your frontier justice, just wait until the end of the video. You might agree with what I have to say. Max Rockatansky is a cop in a somewhat post-apocalyptic setting. He's incurred the wrath of a motorcycle gang, and spoilers, they kill his wife and kid, so he gets, you guessed it, mad. Typical testosterone-driven revenge flick. Except, no. In any other film, your Kill Bills, your Thomas Jane Punisher, your Death Wish, the thing the protagonist wants revenge for happens somewhere in the first act, leaving the rest of the film for them to get revenge. But in Mad Max, the missus and the kid die less than 20 minutes before the ending. My suggestion on what could have improved this movie structurally is to move their deaths up shortly after Max kills the Knight Rider. Maybe one of his fellow cops leaks to the gang where Max's family lives, then we see him devolve into the broken machine he is by the end of the movie as he comes after each member of the gang. You've seen this kind of movie a dozen times, I don't need to get into the specifics on what would go down, but maybe because this structure is what you would expect, this is why George Miller tried to do something different. Maybe. And on paper, I kinda like what Miller is doing. I believe he wants us to see what kind of man Max is pre-revenge. I would argue movies like The Crow or the 2004 Punisher show us what kind of person the protagonist is while still devoting most of the movie to their revenge. But maybe Miller wanted to really take his time before unleashing an onslaught of action on us. Or it's possible, this being more of a low-budget affair compared to the later installments, he didn't have the capacity to get into the high-octane kills too early, so that's why he held off on killing Max's family. But we don't really get to know Max before his family dies. We have several scenes showing how weird and creepy the gang leader Toe Cutter is, and while he is certainly threatening, you could cut half of those scenes and he would still maintain that air of menace. We have Goose leering at a lounge singer and then he sleeps with her, less than 5 minutes that feels like someone added it in after the movie was over because they felt like they were missing something. If you trim all these moments and spend more time with Max and his family, I would actually feel something when they die, and I would really feel something when Max takes out Toe Cutter's gang. But as is, the only thing I can tell you is Max's wife loves him and he loves her. Information we could have gotten if she and the kid died 15 minutes into the movie. But if Miller really wanted to hold off on killing the wife and kid, then do this. Early on, after Max kills the Knight Rider, Max's boss tells him Toe Cutter's gang is mad at him. Instead of them being just mad at Max, they're mad at a whole group of cops who took out the Knight Rider. Instead of following the structure of a revenge film, you follow the structure of a slasher film, with Max's buddies as the group of idiot teenagers, Toe Cutter and his crew as the slasher monster, and Max as the final girl. Each kill, we see Max break just a little bit more. This would require some very subtle acting, and while I don't think Mel Gibson is a bad actor, I'm not sure he can pull off the subtlety needed if the movie did this. This would be sort of like Magneto. There's this misconception Magneto became who he is because of the Holocaust, but that was only one step in his character progression. He was a victim of the Holocaust, then his daughter burned to death and the townspeople wouldn't let him save her, then he sees there are spies working for a Nazi splinter group even in a hospital he's volunteering at, then he helps the CIA nail Nazis, but he sees even they're corrupt because they would rather kill him than let him take out certain Nazis that might be useful to them. It's a whole series of awful things that turn him into Magneto. Do something like that with Max. One scene I like is when the cops have this guy in custody, but rules are rules, we have to let him go. Goose isn't happy with this and tries to attack Johnny, but Max is holding him back. This is a man who still believes in law and order. But if you did what I'm suggesting, maybe the rules are holding Max and the surviving cops back. And by the time all of Max's friends and family are taken from him, he no longer believes in the code he lived and fought for, as we see in the finale of the movie. This would be much more of a character piece than what the Mad Max series is known for, but since this movie didn't want to be the revenge movie we've seen so many variations of, it should have leaned into something like this. Maybe this would have ruined the post-apocalyptic Clint Eastwood Man with No Name vibe the later movies were going for, but in the context of this movie, I think this would have been an improvement.